Yeah, I go, and I was like, oh God, I can't say no this time because I told her I would do it. So I said yes reluctantly, and I did it. And I told her today, I said, "Ooh, you didn't know what you was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. You took a big chance." She said, "I knew you had it." And it was I'm going to say it was a greatest start, but by the time I got midways in it, I went, oh, I got this. And we did a year, we got to the first year together. Her team came to me and said, you got a lot of potential to become a producer. Because I wasn't producing it, I even never wanted to be a producer. That was nothing I even planned on being.
Tell them who inspired you to be a producer.
Teddy Riley inspired me to be a producer. He's my hero to this day. So if you go back and you listen to early Tri-City singers, you're going to hear a lot of Blue Jack in there because that's really who inspired me. And and the reason, this is how he inspired me. He inspired me because when I got to Steph, I had to learn to duplicate her live show to sound exactly like the albums. So I would go into the studio and study all the tracks and study how they put the beats together and study how many kicks Teddy would use and how many snares he would use and this sound and that sound and this analog sound and that, And I said, oh, this is producing. So the thing about it is, and I can say this too, I come from a very strict church background. So just me going to work for Stephanie Mills was a thing. I want y'all to know they dogged me out. It's not a thing no more, but back then, I was just, you might as well just say I just went on and just became a stripper or something. I don't know, they talked me like I was the worst. And I will say this, for those of you who are going down unique paths, let me say it like this. God will take you to some place that will wake up your potential that would have never awakened if you stay right in your comfort zone.
Yes, sir.
That's what happened.
Preach, sir.
Had I not done that,
You better preach, sir.
Lawrence, the producer, because that woke it up in me. I had the chance to work with the best sound people. I had the chance to work with the best lighting people. I got to go into the best studios and see what they were doing, and it woke up the producer in me, because that was still, there might be some potential there, but it was asleep. I didn't even know. But all of a sudden, something clicked. And when Tri-City first did their first album, what you got was what I used to do on stage with Stephanie as a choir. So our first album, I just said, hey, I want to do this live album, but I want to take beats and stuff like we do with Stephanie and do it with a live choir, and no one was doing that back then. So I wish we had filmed it, but you would see we had an MPC on stage from the first day Tri-City stepped on stage in 1991. The beats kicked in, the audience was in shock, and when we finished the first song, I never forget the audience stood and they applauded. We had to stop them because they just couldn't believe what they heard. It was like, what is this? And I think that was the birth of that version of urban gospel when it comes to choirs using beats and everything. And I just did something for Vicky Mack, and she always says that's what introduced it. So that's really, but again, that stemmed from me studying Teddy Riley, and I also studied Luther Vandross a lot. I studied his approach to the vocals, the airiness, the breathiness, and how they would kind of, I call it hooping, how they would kind of like hoop through some of those stories on the back end of that. And so the vocal arrangement, I never forget when I first started training Tri-City, I would spell out all the words and I would put H's in front of them. So if you go back and listen to us, you're gonna hear them say, I am God, because I have spelled it like that way. I've said, I am God all by myself. I don't need it. And I took their lyrics and I spelled it exactly how I want them to say it. And I showed them how to take the air and manipulate the mics so that you get that sibilance, and it just brought this whole cushion. And sometimes when we sing, people would say, are you singing with tracks? I was like, nobody was using tracks back then. There were no stems. This is raw. I just taught them how to do that technique. And that was my Luther study, my Teddy study, all of that stuff coming into play with other influences as well, Crouch and different people. That's kind of how all of that goes. So that's my journey from high school to Stephanie Mills, actually into Tri-City Singers.
Wow. That's a journey. I always tell my students, and everybody here knows, or everybody that knows me knows that I want every student here at Berkeley and Boston Conservatory at Berkeley to be able to make a living with their craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want you to have to sing during the day and work at Walmart at night. I want you to be able to make a living. Was PTL the first time that you actually started making a living with your music?
I think it was the first time I really made a living. Now, when I was in college, I would train choirs and stuff, and I did get paid for that while I was in college. But also, my aunt was giving me money to pay for my apartment. You know,
Yeah, that don't count. Yeah,
that don't count. So, but know this: as soon as they said you're done, she was done, and she didn't give me no more money after that. I was like, she said, okay, you're on your own. So then I knew I had to do something, and so I found ways to do it. But it definitely, I will say, I've been blessed that most of my life, not all of it, I did have some jobs before, but I think since college, I've never had any other job other than music. Never had a job other than music. I want to repeat this one thing again.
Yes, sir.
I really want to say this, you know, especially for those of you who grew up in really strict churches. Don't let religion dictate your path sometimes. It will cause you to miss out on a lot of things. They don't mean any harm, but you know, and I'm just being a little spiritual for a minute, you guys. My pastor told me something. He said there is a mechanism in the world that's not in the church that will ignite your true potential. Don't miss it. And then once it's awakened, come back to the church and be a blessing.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, sir.
If you're churched out there and that's a thing for you, there's something that you can get that's not in the church that will cause you to get so much success that you can come back here and be a blessing. So I always say, if it wasn't for Stephanie Mills pushing me, you wouldn't have the Donald Lawrence sound, the Tri-City Singers, all that, because really all of that was inspired by my tenure with her.
That's excellent. Thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit about money. Because when you started making money, did you ever go through a process of how you would manage it? How did you manage your money?
I don't think I was good at it. I'm still getting better at it, but the reason why I say I don't think I was good at it, because I was making sure the budget was paid. I wasn't paying myself. I made sure everybody was paid with me. So that's what I mean by I wasn't good. Now, some people just was bad with it in general.
Right. And you wasn't buying cars and jewelry and all that. You were making sure people got paid.
I tell everybody to this day, I say, you know, Tri-City Singers' first budget, this was a high budget back then. I saved the money that I made from Stephanie Mills enough to pay for the first album we did, and it cost $100,000 way back then. I did not buy me a car or a Mercedes or anything like that. I was just a regular little car, and I saved my money and I invested it into our first album. So I paid for things, and it was a certain way I wanted things to sound, so therefore it cost a lot more. And you couldn't do what we can do in studios now. Back then, you had to work in $250 an hour studios and all this stuff. So, and even when we first started, we did digital, but we did the Sony digital 48 track machines. I don't know, some of you old engineers, y'all might know this thing, but they had these little, it was where things were transitioning from analog to digital, but it was still tape. So we were renting these 48 track digital boards back in 1991, recording so I could get the crispness of digital, but still the weight of analog. So I was doing stuff like that, and it cost, and it was just a certain way I wanted my stuff to sound, so I spent the money on the art. I just didn't spend it on myself, and I think that I could have probably managed that better. So it's not so much that I wasted it, it's just I knew what I wanted, and maybe my taste was more than I had, budget-wise, but I knew what I wanted to hear.
What they say, champagne?
Yeah, I had champagne taste and Coca-Cola money.
Coca-Cola money.
Yeah, so like that. That's why I say that.
But that turned out to be a good business.
It turned out to be a very good business investment for me, because once it hit, it opened the door. People started calling me to produce. Of course, I got all kinds of offers, and it came. I didn't know that it was going to go that way, because I wasn't thinking money. I really was thinking art. You know, I was thinking like, I have these ideas. I just think they'll really be good. And I thought once I put it out there, everybody's gonna love it. They didn't love it right away now. They came around maybe the second time around, but people got it. Now people come back to me and say, man, you were so ahead of yourself. I was like, well, I saw something. I just thought everybody would get it. But again, because you guys are, like I said, if you're here, you're brilliant. Don't let people's lack of vision stifle your forward thinking, because people will make you feel like, oh, maybe not, or maybe ain't what I thought it was going to be. But you're just way ahead of them, and they'll catch up eventually. And I know that for a fact.
Halama
I tell
kusunda.
people this
They'll
story all
catch
the
up
time, too, that
eventually.
A promoter came to me after my first record, and we were touring, and one of the songs was real big on the radio, Shakti-Do, and we had like a Shabba Rank sample in it. Oh yeah, we were sampling in 1991 too. So just so you know, we was doing that too, as well. We were sampling beats and stuff like that. And it was singing and people playing it. This promoter came to me, and I never forget it, and it was myself and Kirk Franklin on a tour. And he said, you guys are one hit wonder. Kirk Franklin is gonna be here forever. And he said, cause that stuff that y'all doing, he said, I mean, it might be kind of eclectic, but it ain't nothing. So, you know, as a new artist, you just don't even know how to take that. I'm still learning though. So unless you're gonna out-think me smart, you're really not gonna be able to take me down unless you're smarter than me. I'm just one of those people. Like, if you're smarter than me, you can back me up in the corner, but I feel like you don't know what you're talking about. I just let you go ahead and say it. Then, of course, we followed up with Bible stories, then we followed up with Never Seen the Righteous, then we followed up with Bless Me. He came back to me and said, I was so wrong. I didn't see it, I didn't get it.
Well, at least he admitted
He
it.
came back and he apologized. He said, I'm so sorry, I didn't get it. He said, you were just thinking ahead, and I apologize, you made me eat my words.
Okay, I want to back up just a little bit, because when I did my research, I thought your first record deal was with Gospel Centric, but you told me you had another deal before that.
I had another deal before Gospel Centric. Stephanie Mills, when I was singing with her, I had my childhood friends out with me. They were the backing group. There were 3 guys. They were called Company, but it was 7 of us really, but 3 of them were out on the road with me. I took out on the road with me. And we would just sing, and in her shows, people would just be loving the vocals. They would come to Stephanie all the time and say, who are those people singing behind you? Who did those vocal arrangements? Like, Donald did them. And while we're out there, about album 2, Stephanie asked me if I would think of a new arrangement of Home. So we went in the studio and I demoed it and sent it to her. And we were young, I wasn't producing yet. And they loved it. So the new arrangement of Home that she came out many years ago, I did that arrangement as well. She remade it in the early 90s. She remade it. So after that, her manager said, I'm getting ready to be president of Aqua Giant Records, Urban Exile, and I want to sign you guys. And so that was my first record deal with the guys. And then Tri-City Singers, which was a gospel centric deal, was the choir. So it was gonna be the guys and then the choir, 2 different kind of things. The guys were way more New Jack and a little bit more over there. The choir was some New Jack with some, what I call contemporary gospel, and some traditional mixed into it, all of it. So it was two different situations, and that was kind of how it was getting started.
I want you to tell them the story about how what your lawyer did on that first deal.
Oh yeah, my lawyer, his name was Ben Whitfield, he's still alive. When I got the deal, you know, it was a good deal. It was money. I just wanted to get in the studio and get these ideas out of my head and start making music. So I just wanted to do it. He said, no, go in my office and don't come out until you finish reading that entire contract. So he made me stay in there all day. I would leave and come back the next day. It took me about 2 days because I would go back and forth.
We're talking about what, 22, 25, 30 pages?
Oh yeah, 50
Yeah.
pages, yeah. And legal jargon, yes, that stuff, you know. So I was still trying to figure out what does this mean, I go and ask questions. But he was like, don't come out until you read it. He would not let me sign it until I read it, until I understood a lot of the terms. And he woke up the music business brain in me to make me want to know how to do certain things and get through certain things. He also trained me too that my first album, which was the Tri-City Singers, it wasn't even a signed project, it was a leased project. because I had already paid for it. He was like, there's no need for you to give that to a label when you already paid, done all the work. I had paid for it. I got Stephanie Mills on there and Peebo Bryson on there and all these new songs. He was like, don't give that to anybody, let's lease it to him. So it was a lease deal. I still own the masters to that.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Was that your first lesson in
Damn.
but I don't
master ownership?
Yeah, but I don't even know if I realized the value of it. You know, he just was like, don't do that, just lease it. And that's what we did, you know.
So what they did was distribute it. That's all
They
they
distributed, well, it was like this. Gospel Centric, you will know, really broke Kirk Franklin, for those of you who know him, and Kurt Carter as well. Gospel Centric, the label head, was a person that I met, and I started kind of helping her figure out how she wanted her label to be. When she heard the demo, she said, I want to start this young, eclectic label, and I'm looking for a sound. And when she heard my demo, she said, this is the sound. I want this to be the sound of my album. And I was trying to sign to Sparrow Records at that particular time. She said, Sparrow is giving me my own label deal. Will you please just save this project for me and let it come out on my label, because I want this to start my label. And I was like, sure. So we became good friends. And then she would send everything that she was doing to me, let me listen to it. A lot of people don't know, but the reason why I sing, I mixed that as well. She didn't like it. I redid the mix. I edited the whole album and sequenced it. I didn't know who Kirk Franklin was. I didn't know no one else. It was her artist, and I said, this is what should be your first single.
So you just mixed it and
I mixed it and edited it, and he called me and said, do this, and I was like, okay, you want this little huck right there? And he was like, yeah, I didn't even know who he was, you know? And so I was doing a lot of things for her. And that's kind of my early start. But yeah, I ended up owning the masters. And it taught me to really understand music business early on. And then I started being fascinated with how people did certain things and certain moves that they made and why they made them. And it just woke up that side of me. So I can go pretty toe to toe with any lawyer, actually. Yeah, I really can. I really can. You'd be surprised. I can negotiate hard. I don't feel like doing it anymore, but I can if you take me to the table.
And it's so funny that you say that, because almost every music business student to a T, or even those who just take maybe one music business class, they talk about how it awakens something in them that they didn't know was there, and then all of a sudden they're interested.
Oh yeah, and now, like me, it's exhausting, because now, y'all exhaust me, because now it's crypto wallets, it's NFTs, it's metaverse, it's just so much.
Blockchain.
Like, it's all the digital wallets, it's just so much going on there. My attorney sent me a note today, was saying, you should do a such an NFT. I said, you know what, I just gotta really, now I know what they all are, don't get me wrong, but I like to know so I have instinct of what to do. I don't like to just know it, because people who have instinct on knowing what NFT is going to hit, that's a different thing than just understanding what it is. So when I don't know something where I can have instinct of how to move with it, I'll wait until I know it like that. So I said, it just sounds so exhausting. I got to really take a moment to just sit back and learn it, not just know what it is, because that's a different thing. But yeah, you guys, it's so much that y'all can do now that if you don't do it, you're leaving millions of dollars on the table.
Well, speaking of millions of dollars, when you signed to EMI Gospel, the label created a maxi CD of the lead single "Testify," promoted it to mainstream radio with a house mix by Junior Vasquez.
Yeah, Junior Vasquez. He's a legendary DJ in the New York area.
That's right. So, how much say did you have in the decisions that the promotional department of the label was making? You know, they say we want to do a remix with Junior Vasquez. What do you get to say?
Well, you know what, I could have said no, because, you know, they charge that back to you, but I wasn't going to say that. And really, honestly, that suggestion started with Billboard. Billboard had listened and reviewed my TC4.com album, and they said there are a few songs on here that needs remixes, like Never Seen the Righteous and Testify. And when they wrote that in their critique of my album, the label hit me and said, what do you think? And so I was like, sure, go ahead and do it. So they sent it to Junior, and he did, I think it might have went to #2 on the dance charts or something like that. Or something. I'm not really sure where it went to, but yeah, it was a club mix, and I think people still kind of play it every now and then all over the world. But yeah, it was that. And just had a feel to them. They thought it did that.
How much creative control were you able to maintain, especially with a big label like EMI?
Oh, I've always had 100% creative control.
Really?
I've never not control. I tell people what my single is going to be.
Really?
Yeah, I've never not had creative control.
Wow.
Yeah, from the get-go. But when you're unique, people can't tell you how to do what you do. You know, they can't because they make a mistake, you know. So they didn't, when I first came, nobody was doing how we approach it. So they didn't know. So even now, you know, people just come to me and say, well, what do you think? I was like, I think this. And if there's a time I'm busy, I say, you guys pick a single. And then if I disagree, I'll say, nah, that ain't it. But, yo, I pick singles. I've never not picked my single.
Wow. And let me tell you something, that is unheard of.
Yeah.
Creative control is one of the most contentious points in a record contract because the label wants control. They want to be able to say what song comes out first and in what order and who does what.
But they don't know. They don't always know. I mean, especially this era of record execs. Because this era of record execs are administrators. They're not creatives. They're more administrative. And they'll be having you put out a record that's pretty much like an accounting statement. But yeah, that I've always had creative control over everything from day one. I don't even send them the songs until I'm done. They don't even hear them. Like, they just know. I'll maybe send them a note, say, this is my concept, this is what I'm doing, and then once I get through the album, I'll maybe get everybody in and say, okay, this is what I'm doing, da 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 da. I think this is the first single. Let me edit it. I'll give you a 3.5-minute version. Whenever things are shorter now, or a 4-minute version. But I started that long time ago.
So they didn't get a satisfaction clause?
Oh, no.
No, nothing like that.
No. I just said, this is it, you know, and everybody just went with it. I never forget one of my good friends, and she had never worked with me before, and I never forget this though, and we laugh about it too. She's a great radio person and a great friend. Her name is Ebony Funderburg. She's a radio promotion person now. When I got ready to deliver the finale album, everybody wanted Giants to be the first single. And I said, that's not gonna be my first single. I don't think nobody knows my single and what people wanna hear from me better than me. And she was like, okay. And I said, it's gonna be the blessing of Abraham. And that's what it's gonna be because that's the message that I'm supposed to say. And the thing about letting label people pick your stuff for you, they don't always know. First of all, in the gospel world or the live entertainment world, they are not out there with your audience. They don't know what people are jumping to. They're just back in the office. The other thing is they don't know what story you're supposed to tell first. They're not in tune like that. You're in tune with that. So I said, this is gonna be my first single. That's it. I was like, we wasn't having a discussion other than when y'all gonna put it out and what the rollout plan was. It wasn't gonna be there to come in and decide which song. So they said, okay. And the song was #1 for 18 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. But I wanted to do it because I felt like the title had never been used. It was an interesting approach to empowerment that people had never heard before. I didn't want to keep putting the same message out there. I wanted to sing something else. And I was like, it had to be this. And, you know, the rest is history. And after that, you know, usually like you give me that one and I might say, okay, I'll give y'all this one. Or, you know, I don't mind, you know, I'm not just a tyrant. Yeah, I don't mind a compromise. That's how we work together, but there's something I'm strong about. That's what we're gonna do.
Okay, I have a couple more points I want to hit on.
Sure.
And the first is you made a big decision to go solo.
Mm-hmm.
What was behind that decision?
Yeah, it was more so to have a smaller group, to do some other things that I wanted to do that was probably even a little more Lutherish, a little more Andre Crouches. Plus, inside Tri-City, there were a lot of the talent that wanted to do some other things too. Tri-City wasn't a group where we had a big turnaround. It's the group, we're not the group. We never had, like even to this day we'll come out together, it's the same people from forever. You know, we just never had we weren't an audition group, we weren't a group that had a big revolving door. So when a lot of people wanted to do and get out and do their things, I felt like the choir was gonna change. So I wanted to just have a great ending celebration, let everybody get to go out, because I've always been very supportive of the talent in my groups getting to get out and do their own thing. That's why we're close to this day. I push them. I've always been a big, whatever I can do for that, I've always loved that because I think we become to help others become.
That's
That's a message that I stand on to this
Say
day.
that one more time.
We become to help others become. Yeah, we get there and then we're to get other people
That's
there.
right.
And
Yes,
they're to
sir.
do the same.
Yes, sir.
It just keeps coming, you know. We're not supposed to just be the front person and keep everybody in the back, and if they get ready to do their own thing, you get mad at them and just like, I'm never going to be that. That's not who I'm called to be. I'm one of those people that are called to create leaders, not have just employees behind me, you know. I create leaders, and that's what I want to do. So yeah, when I saw that happening, I just said, well, you guys, let's just have a great final celebration and to let everybody get their hands wet and get out there and do their thing. And then it just allowed me to tour a little smaller. And this was a time when the choirs were kind of, you know, people didn't want to move the big groups anymore. And I don't know how when I tell y'all, I don't know how in the world I moved 45 people for 15 years. I just don't know. I don't know where I did that. Now thinking about, I go back and I said, how did I move all these people for about 15 years, you know, with about 45 people, 2 tour buses and flights. I was like, where did we get all this money from? But we did it. And, you know, and that's, once we kind of did the finale, I mean, it allowed me to just do a smaller group and do some other things. But I love getting back together with the choir. I love coming back together and singing. We just get together. I didn't put the group back together for the 25-year anniversary, but it was really more sort of come back and celebrate and just record, just to have fun recording and get together. And we all still keep up with each other. And if there's an event where I can put them together to sing, I will. And that's kind of how we work with each other.
Well, I did want to say your first solo album, I Speak Life,
I Speak Life, yeah.
had everybody on it.
Oh,
It
yeah.
had, let me read this list, Donnie McClurkin, Hezekiah Walker, Faith Evans, Richard Smallwood, Carl Thomas, Ramsey Lewis, Layla Hathaway. It got 7 Stellar Award nominations and 6 wins. Your first solo. It also prompted you to start your own imprint.
Yeah.
Tell us about Quiet Water.
I started Quiet Water really as a production company. So it was more than just label, it was all things multimedia. Whether I do a play, that's a Quiet Water. If I tour, it's through Quiet Water. If there's publishing, it's all kind of multimedia, but with the label attachment too, so that I had my own imprint, and that when I wanted to do things, or if I wanted to start to launch an artist, I could do it that way. And even with me launching an artist, it wasn't for monetary gain for me. It was for me to protect them, to get them out there. And then once they got going, you could go sign direct with somebody or whatever you want. And that's what I did with the Merles, and I did that with Dwayne Woods. And Dwayne Woods, his song "Let Go" went gold like last year. So, yeah, so yeah.
Okay, now here's a little controversy.
The first one, can I just
No,
say?
go ahead.
Let me tell y'all something. From the first time I heard, I'm coming back just to give you my love. I have loved Layla Hathaway. So I had to find her. I was like, does anybody know how I can find
She gonna be here
Layla Hathaway? She, because she had kind of fell off the scene for a while. And I found her and I said, I know you don't know me. I'm such a huge fan. Would you consider doing this song with me? And she was like, sure. I flew her to Chicago, and she came in the studio. And my engineer, we had done Faith, we had done Carl Thomas, we had done so many people. So he didn't really know her. I said, Craig, let me tell you something. This one right here is from another realm. And I said, when she sings, get it. And she came in and she was just really nice, and we met. It was the first time that we was talking, and I had sent her a demo how I wanted this song to go, and let her, and I had got Ramsey to come and play a little bit on the piano, and she started singing, and she did one take. Craig turned the board off and said, I have never experienced anything like this before. I said, I tell you, it's a zone. And we're the best of friends to this day now. But I know she's from here, and I know she's coming soon. So
We're giving her an honorary dollar.
Yeah, I saw that. I said she deserves it. So I just wanted to say that's my intro Layla story. I used to play her music so much, and I just thought she was the most unique singer. She always tells me that if I'm ever feeling low, I just call you because I'm always amping her up. Because I think she's like the greatest. I said, people don't get you. They don't really get that your voice changes colors with the track. Like Layla's voice will change colors with the track. If the track is bright, her voice gets bright. If the track is muddy or gray or moody, her voice gets muddy. I told her her voice is like a lizard. It's like a chameleon. It just like switches based on what instrumentation you have. So she's a rare gift. Beyond just what you hear her do vocally, it's just a rare instrument, you know, and I just get it. So yeah, I'm still a huge fan, and we're really cool to this day.
Wow, I love that. You should come back for commencement. If you come back for commencement, let me tell you what the students do. We put on a concert the night before graduation that performs the music of the honorary doctoral candidates.
Wow. When is commencement?
May 7th.
May 7th. I have to see what's happening. That's real close too. That's like 2 weeks.
2
right?
weeks.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks.
I would love to surprise you today because she's a great friend.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. Okay, last question. So, in doing my research, I researched the top gospel albums past 3, 4, or 5 years. And I saw the usual suspects, Donnie McClurkin, Tasha Cobbs Leonard, Kurt Franklin, Martha Sapp. Saw a few newbies, like Jonathan McReynolds and Corinne Hawthorne. Then I saw Snoop Dogg and Kanye West. Snoop's Bible of Love was number 1 on the Billboard Gospel charts the week it was released, and number 4 overall 2018. Kanye's Jesus is King soundtrack was the number 1 selling gospel album in 2019 and 2020. His Donda was the top selling gospel album of 2021. Has gospel music changed? Or have audiences changed? Or a little bit of both?
You know what? I don't think the gospel music has changed. I don't think the audience has changed. I think it broadens it a little bit. But the one thing that when you see these stats, there's a thing that's being left out. What's being left out is if Kanye West does a gospel album, first of all, Kanye West became a billionaire because people like to buy sneakers from him. So if they like to buy his sneakers, they buy anything that he puts out. So when you see I love what Kanye's doing. I think it's genius, and it's Chicago, so I understand what he's doing. What you have to understand is that when Kanye West shows up at the top of the gospel chart, you have to go and look and see if that's the gospel people that are giving him that thing. Because Kanye's audience is massive. He gonna show up, if he did a country album, he's gonna get a number 1. Because it could be hip hop people, but it's a country album, and thereby hip hop people buying a country album will make him number 1 in country as well.
But it might not be country people.
It might not be country people. So it might not be gospel people that's buying it. Although I do think some gospel people did, but that when you read that like that, you have to take into account his huge audience of hip hop. And that's what will push it there, because if 10% of them are gospel and 90% of them are hip hop, we know how massive the hip hop audience is. Right. And that will let you know who the real demo is. Right. And that's kind of why that's there.
Because the numbers don't tell you the demographic.
They don't tell you the demographic, they just tell you the numbers.
Right.
And so that's that. So that's why I said the audience hasn't changed. But to Kanye's defense, this album was very much gospel and rap. It was a choir album with rap added to it. I love that. I've always put a verse so somebody did something as well. So I do think it was gospel sounding. Not all albums that end up being there sound gospel, but that one does. I hear our culture. I hear soul. I hear funk. I hear that thing going. So I'm not mad at it. I think it's cool. I think it was cool. I loved what Kanye and Jason and the samples. They're all good friends of mine. I love what they did. But
did you hear Bible of Love, Snoop's album?
I did hear Bible of Love. He worked with a lot of people as well. Again, I don't know that Snoop had the numbers that Kanye had, but some of Snoop's people will come over there too. So, people that like vintage hip hop from Snoop, that would be some of his audience buying his gospel album as well. So that will make your numbers different if you move over from another genre. Some of those people will come and do it. And if your album is listed on the gospel side, you get those numbers plus. That's right. And that will change what that is. It doesn't mean the audience is changing. It means that there's a new audience adding to it, but it doesn't mean that the standard audience has changed.
I love that you said that. And what I was, my last question for you is, Well, two things I wanted to know. Who would you like to either work with or produce for that you have not worked with yet?
Oh wow! I mean, I've really pretty much worked with all of the people that I've wanted to work with. However, there might be one. And I say this all the time. She's gonna get tired of me saying it, but I've never worked with Cece on a project. Now I've worked with her in doing things, but not in studio. I've never been in studio with Cece. Yeah, I love Cece. I've always loved her from the time she stepped foot on PTO. So it would probably be her. The other people that I would love to work with is like I would have loved to work with Luther. I know a lot of his team members, and they think that we are so similar when it comes to musicality and our approach. I still study him like a book. If you guys have never taken time to just go back and study Luther Vandross's vocal arrangements, you should. It's a masterclass. Don't get it twisted. Like the man was a genius at really. It's almost like his background vocals were a Greek chorus. If you understand what a Greek chorus is in musical theater, you have the main actor telling the story, and the Greek chorus kind of like retells the story behind them, or accents the story, or adds something to the story. His background vocals, it's a class of its own, and it's always giving more to the story. So go back and listen to some of it. Just focus on the BGVs, and you're gonna hear how brilliant he was with that. So he was one person that I would love to work with.
And my last thing is, when I was looking at your accolades, Grammy Award-winning recording artist, singer, songwriter, record producer, composer, music director, choir director, and actor. I didn't forget that one. What inspires you to keep doing what you do? I mean, there's so much. Look, y'all didn't see my list. I couldn't even get to all of it. Not just the albums and the gospel career and the R&B career with Stephanie Mills and the award shows that you have performed at and the TV shows that you've hosted and the plays. You have diversified your portfolio more than anyone I know. You are not a gospel musician or artist. You are an artist.
I think all gospel artists are artists if you see yourself that way. I think sometimes the church limits us and we feel like all we can do is that, but God gifted you with gifts. He didn't say that you just be gifted right here. I'm gonna push for people to really see gospel as an art as well. So that way it's not just limited to Sunday morning. It's we worked hard, and so I understand how to do everything. You put me in a room, I know how to do it. So I mean, it's a lot of us like that. It's just I don't know that we either have the confidence or we just don't think from that perspective. So I'm always pushing people to, don't limit yourself to right here, because if you limit yourself, not only do you do disservice to you, you do disservice to those who are waiting on you, because there's someone waiting on you to come so that they can come. And when you hold back your coming, then they don't get to come. You understand what I mean? Like, there's somebody that's like you that you're gonna say one thing that's gonna allow them to be bigger and to think outside of the box. And if you don't do it, then they're not gonna do it. Then the people who are waiting on them, they're not gonna do it. So you kind of stifle a whole generation of people by not stretching yourself beyond just one place of comfort. There's so much out there for us to do, and I think that art is great, and God is He's a creative creator. I have this lyric, and I've kind of sat on it for a long time, but it's an explanation of the glory of God. And most people hear glory, they think of when people say the glory is in the room, and I'm talking churchy for a minute, you guys, if people don't go to church.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There's a term where we say God's glory is in the room. And I think that for church people, they think that there was this presence and everybody felt it. But what people don't really understand that there's another definition of glory. Glory is God's attributes in the earth. When you get to see Mount Rushmore and how statuesque it is, that's his personality in the earth. When you look at the Boston skyline and it's beautiful, you're like, oh my goodness, who created this? Somebody put it on paper, then somebody built it, and we see it, and it's just his personality. And you see the ocean, and you see somebody play like Michael Jordan, you go like, wow, like that's another part of God's glory in the earth, because it's his attributes, it's his personality coming through his sons, his kids. When you heard Whitney for the first time, you hear that. That's his personality showing. When you fantastic students that play like you play, and everybody's going like, how did you figure that out? That's his personality, that's his glory. There's an old thing that people used to say, a woman's hair is her glory, because that was your personality. It's the same thing. When we see all of this stuff happening, the creativity, the art, that's his glory. And you know what? When you saw Michael Jackson do it, everybody just went, wow. Like, we just wow. I say this, God's glory makes people go, wow.
That's right.
Let's get back to the wow.
That's right.
Let's get back to the wow. There's a wow factor coming when you let God take your talent and do all these. Michelangelo, we watch his paintings, how he did the Sistine Chapel. Like, people couldn't believe it. They were wow, because that's what his glory, his personality in earth does. It makes you go, wow. I'm going like, his glory makes the world go, wow. Let's get back to the wow.
Let's get back to Eden.
I can talk to you. I got enough questions to talk to you all night.
Are we doing a Q&A? Because I know when I get in front of people, they always want to do that. Do we have time to do a Q&A?
You know what? Because I want the gospel, usually when we do a Q&A, we'll set up mics in the audience, and we don't have the mics set up.
Got you, yeah. I just know how people always, when I get here, they just want to ask me something. So that's why I'm saying that. I want to
Oh, okay. No. Yeah. What was that? Most of them can.
But I don't know what time you have to be. I just know that when they cannot get here, people are like, oh God, I had something to ask you. Oh God, I had to something to ask you.
And I tried to ask as the most questions that I possibly could, but there's so much more. But I could talk to you all night long.
Thank
you are
you.
so fascinating. I've really enjoyed spending the day with you.
Thank you.
So have our students. Everybody, let's hear it from Mr. Donald Lawrence.
Can we just raise the house light so I can see who's down here?
Yeah.
Can you raise the house lights a little bit so I can see you?
And before you go, we're going to hear from the Reverend Gospel Ensemble.
All right.
One more time.
Good deal.